Zilu was asking about government. Lead the way in it, said the master, and work hard at it. Requested to say more, he added, and do not tire of it. Zhengkong, on being made first minister to the chief of the Qi family, consulted the master about government, and to him he said, "Let the heads of officers be heads. Excuse small faults, promote men of sagacity and talent." But, he asked, how am I to know the sagacious and talented before promoting them? Promote those whom you do know, said the master. As to those of whom you are uncertain, will others omit to notice them? Zilu said to the master, as the Prince of Wei, "Sir, has been waiting for you to act for him in his government. What is it your intention to take in hand first?" "One thing of necessity," he answered, "the rectification of terms." "That," exclaimed Zilu. "How far away you are, sir! Why such rectification?" "What a rustic you are, Zilu," rejoined the master. "A gentleman would be a little reserved and reticent in matters which he does not understand. If terms be incorrect, language will be incongruous. And if language be incongruous, deeds will be imperfect. So, again, when deeds are imperfect, propriety and harmony cannot prevail. And when this is the case, laws relating to crime will fail in their aim. And if these last so fail, the people will not know where to set hand or foot. Hence, a man of superior mind, certain first of his terms, is fitted to speak, and being certain of what he says can proceed upon it. In the language of such a person, there is nothing heedlessly irregular, and that is the sum of the matter. Footnote 1, see Book 12.2. Let a prince be a prince, etc. Fan Chi requested that he might learn something of husbandry. "For that," said the master, "I am not equal to an old husbandman." "Might he then learn something of gardening?" he asked. "I am not equal to an old gardener," was the reply. "A man of little mind, that," said the master, when Fan Chi had gone out. "Let a man who is set over the people love propriety, and they will not presume to be disrespectful. Let him be a lover of righteousness, and they will not presume to be aught but submissive. Let him love faithfulness and truth, and they will not presume not to lend him their hearty assistance." Ah, if all this only were so, the people from all sides would come to such a one, carrying their children on their backs. What need to turn his hand to husbandry? Footnote 1. A commentator Yenson gives the proverb, about plowing ask the laborer, about weaving ask the maid. "Though a man," said he, "could hum through the odes the 300, yet should show himself unskilled when given some administrative work to do for his country. Though he might know much of that other law, yet if, when sent on a mission to any quarter, he could answer no question personally and unaided, what after all is he good for? Let a leader," said he, "show rectitude in his own personal character, and even without directions from him things will go well. If he be not personally upright, his directions will not be complied with." Once he made the remark, "The governments of Lu and of Wei are in brotherhood." Footnote 1. The states had been held at the beginning of the dynasty by two brothers, and they had now fared much in the same way for centuries. Of King, a son of the Duke of Wei, he observed that he managed his household matters well. On his coming into possession, he thought, what a strange conglomeration. Coming to possess a little more, it was strange, such a result. And when he became wealthy, strange, such elegance. Footnote 2. His excellent management is to be seen in his gradual prosperity, but his indifference about wealth is noted at the various stages of it. The master was on a journey to Wei, and Yen Yu was driving him. "What multitudes of people!" he exclaimed. Yen Yu asked him, "Seeing they are so numerous, what more would you do for them?" "Enrich them," replied the master. "And after enriching them, what more would you do for them?" "Instruct them." Footnote 1. We find Mencius inculcating the same ideas. How true they are. The first thing is to raise the material welfare of a people. They will then, says Mencius, have a fixed heart, and it will be easier to raise their morals. Wealth, says Mr. Danson, wealth of households, Clarendon Press, is not virtue, but it tends to make virtue easy. ... To use it well is to elevate in the scale of being all over whom we have influence. ... We must needs think of the Good Samaritan as of one who had pence to spare. "Were any one of our princes to employ me," he said, "after a 12-month I might have made some tolerable progress. But give me 3 years, and my work should be done." Again, how true is that saying, "Let good men have the management of a country for a century, and they would be adequate to cope with evildoers, and thus do away with capital punishments." Again, suppose the ruler to possess true kingly qualities, then surely after 1 generation there would be goodwill among men. Footnote 1. The Chinese reckon a generation
是
at 30 years. Again, let a ruler but see to his own rectitude, and what trouble will he then have in the work before him? If he be unable to rectify himself, how is he to rectify others? Once when Yen Yu was leaving the court, the master accosted him. "Why so late?" he asked. "Busy with legislation," Yen replied. "The details of it," suggested the master. "Had it been legislation, I should have been there to hear it, even though I am not in office." Footnote 1. Yen Yu was in the service of the ambitious chief of the Qi family, about whose usurpations of royal prerogatives see on Book 3.I.6. The master thought that business there should be executive rather than legislative. The commentators, however, suppose he meant the family affairs. Duke Ting asked if there were one sentence which, if acted upon, might have the effect of making a country prosperous. Confucius answered, "A sentence could hardly be supposed to do so much as that. But there is a proverb people use which says, 'To play the prince is hard, to play the minister not easy.' Assuming that it is understood that to play the prince is hard, would it not be probable that with that one sentence the country should be made to prosper?" Duke Ting asked if there were one sentence which, if acted upon, might have the effect of making a country prosperous. Confucius again replied, "A sentence could hardly be supposed to do so much as that. But there is a proverb men have which says, 'Not gladly would I play the prince, unless my words were ne'er withstood,' assuming that the words were good, and that none withstood them, would not that also be good? But assuming that they were not good, and yet none withstood them, would it not be probable that with that one saying he would work his country's ruin?" When the Duke of She consulted him about government, he replied, "Where the near are gratified, the war will follow." When Xia became governor of Khufu and consulted him about government, he answered, "Do not wish for speedy results. Do not look at trivial advantages. If you wish for speedy results, they will not be far-reaching. And if you regard trivial advantages, you will not successfully deal with important affairs." The Duke of She in a conversation with Confucius said, "There are some straightforward persons in my neighborhood. If a father has stolen a sheep, the son will give evidence against him. Straightforward people in my neighborhood are different from those," said Confucius. The father will hold a thing secret on his son's behalf, and the son does the same for his father. They are on their way to becoming straightforward. Footnote 1, or straightforwardness lies in their way.
在其中
We have the same expression in Book 2.18, last sentence, with reference to seeking preferment, also in Book 19.6. Fan Chi was asking him about duty to one's fellow men. Be courteous, he replied, in your private sphere. Be serious in any duty you take in hand to do. Be leal-hearted in your intercourse with others. Even though you were to go amongst the wild tribes, it would not be right for you to neglect these duties. In answer to Zikong, who asked how he would characterize one who could fitly be called learned official, the master said, he may be so called who in his private life is affected with a sense of his own unworthiness, and who, when sent on a mission to any quarter of the empire, would not disgrace his prince's commands. May I presume, said his questioner, to ask what sort you would put next to such? Him who is spoken of by his kinsmen as a dutiful son, and whom the folks of his neighborhood call good brother. May I still venture to ask whom you would place next in order? Such as are sure to be true to their word, and effective in their work, who are given to hammering, as it were, upon one note of inferior caliber indeed, but fit enough, I think, to be ranked next. How would you describe those who are at present in the government service? Mere peck and panya men, not worth taking into the reckoning. Footnote 1.
铿铿然
Kong Kong Zhan, an expression borrowed from the monotonous beating of the musical stone. See Book 14.42, Footnote 2. The reference may be to their being mere measures of capacity. See on Book 5.3 and Book 2.2. Or it may be, with more likelihood, mere food-getters, or, as Dr. Williams explains the phrase in his dictionary, rustics who only know about eating. Once he remarked, if I cannot get via media men to impart instruction to, then I must of course take the impetuous and undisciplined. The impetuous ones will at least go forward and lay hold on things, and the undisciplined have at least something in them which needs to be brought out. Footnote 1, or the wild and the playful, in the first sense applied to dogs. Footnote 2, lit, which they do not do. The Southerners, said he, have the proverb, the man who sticks not to rule will never make a charm worker or a medical man. Good. Whoever is intermittent in his practice of virtue will live to be ashamed of it. Without prognostication, he added, that will indeed be so. Footnote 1. There would be little difference between these professions then, and they are not much unlike now. Footnote 2. This sentence is from the Book of Changes, the
横
hang diagram, Book 30.6. The nobler-minded man, he remarked, will be agreeable even when he disagrees. The small-minded man will agree and be disagreeable. Zikong was consulting him and asked, what say you of a person who was liked by all in his village? That will scarcely do, he answered. What, then, if they all disliked him? That, too, said he, is scarcely enough. Better if he were liked by the good folk in the village, and disliked by the bad. The superior man, he once observed, is easy to serve, but difficult to please. Try to please him by the adoption of wrong principles, and you will fail. Also, when such a one employs others, he uses them according to their capacity. The inferior man is, on the other hand, difficult to serve, but easy to please. Try to please him by the adoption of wrong principles, and you will succeed. And when he employs others, he requires them to be fully prepared for everything. Again, the superior man can be high without being haughty. The inferior man can be haughty, if not high. The firm, the unflinching, the plain and simple, the slow to speak, said he once, are approximating towards their duty to their fellow men. Zilu asked how he would characterize one who might fitly be called an educated gentleman. The master replied, "He who can properly be so called will have in him a seriousness of purpose, a habit of controlling himself, and an agreeableness of manner. Among his friends and associates the seriousness and the self-control, and among his brethren the agreeableness of manner." Footnote 1. Poor Zilu was wanting in all these qualifications, and the reply was, as usual, limited to what he had yet to learn. "Let good and able men discipline the people for 7 years, said the master, and after that they may do to go to war." Footnote 1. In both cases mere is meant that merely military instruction and discipline. It is general instruction. But how must the Chinese regard the sayings after recent experience? "But," said he, "to lead an undisciplined people to war that I call throwing them away." Footnote 1. See Note 2 on page 153. Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more excellent content.